What's up, football fans? Big Al here on this Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. And I am back with the week one college football schedule and the broadcast teams for each game. Now, we started off with a bang on Saturday with week zero. Probably the big game on Saturday's slate was Northwestern's upset win over Nebraska over in Dublin. And now we have come to the first full weekend of the college football season, kicking things off with 16 games on Thursday night, another 8 games on Friday night. Then you got your full Saturday slate. And then you have primetime games on Sunday night and on Labor Day. And I'm about to tell you about the entire schedule and the broadcast teams for all of these games, where they're playing, when they're playing, what network they're going to be on, all that good stuff. So let's not waste any time and jump right in. And we'll start with the Thursday, September 1st portion of the schedule. As I said, there are 16 games on Thursday. Starting off with St. Francis, Pennsylvania, at the Akron Zips. That's at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific on ESPN3. No broadcast team was announced. The first game involving a ranked team takes place an hour early or an hour later at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, as number 17 Pittsburgh hosts West Virginia in the return of the Backyard Brawl, and that game will be on ESPN. The announced team will be Matt Berry and Louis Riddick. Also at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on FS1, Central Michigan at number 12 Oklahoma State, called by Jason Benetti and Brock Heward. On SEC Network at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, Ball State at Tennessee. 3-man booth here with Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelic. On ESPN Plus, you have South Carolina State at UCF. And then Bryant at Florida International and Long Island at Toledo are both on ESPN3, and there are no broadcast teams announced for those 3 games. At 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on the ACC Network, number 22 Wake Forest hosts VMI. The announced team will be Chris Cotter and Mark Herzlich. Then you got 4 games kicking off at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. On Fox, you got a Big Ten tilt pitting the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Purdue Boilermakers. The broadcast team will be Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. On ESPNU is Louisiana Tech at Missouri, Mike Monaco and Dave Steckel. On CBS Sports Network, Alabama A&M visits Birmingham to face UAB. No announced team has been named. And Eastern Illinois at Northern Illinois, also at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on ESPN Plus. No announced team was named for that one. On BTN at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, that's 8 p.m. local in Minneapolis, the Minnesota Golden Gophers will host the New Mexico State Aggies. The announced team is Mark Followell and Matt Millen. At 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, on the Pac-12 network, the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks visiting Tempe to face the Arizona State Sun Devils. That game will be called by Roxy Bernstein and Lincoln Kennedy. And then you got 2 games at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific to round out the Thursday portion of the schedule. Cal Poly visits Fresno State on FS1 with Eric Collins and Devin Gardner. And Portland State at San Jose State on NBC Sports Bay Area and Mountain West Conference Digital with Justin Allegri and James Jones. That brings us to Friday, September 2nd. Again, 8 games on the schedule on Friday, including one ranked team. And that just so happens to be number 15 Michigan State playing host to the Western Michigan Broncos at Spartan Stadium in East Lansing. That's Friday night at 7 on ESPN with Roy Philpott, Andre Ware, and Paul Carcaterra. Also at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on ESPNU is Virginia Tech at Old Dominion with Kevin Brown and Hudson Mason. Eastern Kentucky visits Eastern Michigan at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on ESPN3. No announced team announced. William and Mary is at Charlotte, also at 7 Eastern on ESPN3. And again, no broadcast team was named. At 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on the ACC network, Temple at Duke, Wes Durham and Roddy Jones. Then you got another Big Ten tilt on FS1 at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, with the Illinois Fighting Illini visiting the Indiana Hoosiers. This game will be called by a pair of former CBS employees, Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman. At 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ESPN Plus, Tennessee Tech visits Kansas with Noah Reed and Jay Sonhalter. And the final game on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN is TCU at Colorado with Brian Custer and Dustin Fox. And now to the Saturday portion of the schedule where you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games kicking off at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Starting off with Colorado State visiting number 8 Michigan on ABC with Mark Jones, Robert Griffin III, and Quint Kesenic. That's how you pronounce his name, Kesenic. On ESPN at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific is number 13 NC State at East Carolina, Anish Shroff and Brock Osweiler. On FS1, you've got South Dakota State at Iowa with Noah Eagle and Mark Helfrich. North Carolina at Appalachian State is on ESPNU, called by Mark Neely and Charles Arbuckle. On SEC Network, Sam Houston State visits number 6 Texas A&M with Dave Neal and Deuce McAllister. Then you got Buffalo taking on Maryland on BTN with Lisa Byington and Anthony Herring. On ACC Network is Rutgers at Boston College, Chris Cotter and Mark Herzlich. Delaware travels to Navy on CBS Sports Network, Chick Hernandez and Randy Cross. And then Central Connecticut State at UConn, also at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. This game will be televised on WCCT CW20 in Hartford. At 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific on ACC Regional Sports Networks. Richmond at Virginia. That's the Spiders and the Cavaliers. Broadcast team is Tom Wormay and James Bates. 30 minutes after that, at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, on Altitude and on the Midwest and on the Mountain West Conference's digital platform is Northern Iowa at Air Force. This is in Colorado Springs. The broadcast team is Vic Lombardi and Ted Sundquist. At 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on ESPN Plus, Southeast Missouri State at Iowa State. Broadcast team is Sean Kinney and Todd Doxson. 30 minutes later at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific on the Pac-12 network is Bowling Green at UCLA, called by Roxy Bernstein and Lincoln Kennedy. So that's the early portion of the Saturday schedule. Now to the late afternoon portion of the schedule, where you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games kicking off at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. On ABC, you have number 3 Georgia facing off with number 11 Oregon. This is being played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. The announced team is Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge. On CBS is Arizona at San Diego State with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. On Fox, number 9 Oklahoma hosting UTEP, Jason Benetti and Brock Heward. On ESPN, number 23 Cincinnati at number 19 Arkansas. That's Dave Fleming and Rod Gilmore. On FS1, Tulsa at Wyoming, Eric Collins and Devin Gardner. On BTN is North Dakota at Nebraska. The Cornhuskers looking to bounce back from that terrible loss to Northwestern overseas last week. This game will be called by Brendan Gaudin, Joshua Perry, and Rick Pizzo. Number 16 Miami hosts Bethune-Cookman on ACC Network. That's George Sedano and Forrest Connolly. Then it's an all-Texas battle in San Antonio on CBS Sports Network as number 24 Houston makes the short trip down I-10 to face the UTSA Roadrunners. That game will be called by Rich Waltz and Aaron Taylor. And rounding out the 3:30 portion of the schedule is Norfolk State at Marshall on ESPN3. No broadcast team announced. Then you got a trio of games kicking off at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. On ESPNU is number 25 BYU at South Florida. That's Ted Emmerich and Barrett Brooks. Troy visits number 21 Ole Miss on SEC Network, called by Taylor Zarzar and Matt Stinchcomb. And UC Davis at Cal Berkeley on Pac-12 Network in the Bay Area with Guy Haberman and Shane Vereen. An hour later at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on ESPN3 is Nicholls State at South Alabama. No broadcast team announced. At 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Pacific on Nevada Sports Network out of Reno, Valley Sports SoCal, and the Mountain West Conference digital platform is Texas State at Nevada, and no announced team named for this one. At 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on Pac-12 Network, Rice at number 14 USC with Ted Robinson and Yogi Roth. Next up is Florida Atlantic at Ohio. Middle Tennessee State at James Madison. Those two games are streaming on ESPN Plus at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. And then Morgan State at Georgia Southern, also at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific on ESPN3. No broadcast teams were announced for those three games. Now to the primetime portion of the Saturday schedule. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games kicking off at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. On ESPN, number 7 Utah at Florida, called by Bob Wischusen and Dan Orlovsky. On FS1, at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, is Illinois State at number 18 Wisconsin with Tim Brendel and Spencer Tillman. Also at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, on SEC Network Plus and ESPN Plus is Elon at Vanderbilt with Justin Kutcher and Dave Steckel. Also airing on SEC Network Plus and ESPN Plus is Mercer at Auburn with Mike Corey and Aaron Murray, as well as Miami of Ohio at number 20 Kentucky with Mike Morgan and Tom Ramsey. The next 6 games are all streaming on ESPN Plus. Albany at number 10 Baylor will be called by Pete Souza and Chad Brown. Then you've got Army at Coastal Carolina, Liberty at Southern Miss, UMass at Tulane, and Southeastern Louisiana at Louisiana. That's the Raging Cajuns. All of those games are streaming on ESPN Plus, and no announced teams have been named for those 4 games. The other games streaming on ESPN Plus at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific is South Dakota at Kansas State. That's James Wessling and LaDarren McClain. And then rounding out the 7 p.m., 4 p.m. portion of the schedule, Grambling State at Arkansas State on ESPN3. No broadcast team announced. Then you got 5 games kicking off at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, and perhaps the game of the week taking place in the Horseshoe in Columbus as number 2 Ohio State welcomes in number 5 Notre Dame. That game will be on ABC with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. On ESPNU, Memphis at Mississippi State, Clay Matvick and Rocky Boyman. Next is Utah State at number 1 Alabama on the SEC Network with Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelic. On SEC Network Plus and streaming on ESPN Plus at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific is Georgia State at South Carolina with Courtney Lyle and Chris Doering. On CBS Sports Network at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific is pretty much a battle of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, as Dallas's SMU Mustangs make the short trip up to nearby Denton to face the Mean Green of North Texas, and no broadcast team has been announced for that game. Camarillo. On ACC Network is Louisville at Syracuse. Drew Carter and Tim Hasselbeck. Also at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, you've got Maine at New Mexico. The game will be streaming on the Mountain West Conference's digital website and will be aired locally in the Albuquerque area on KASY TV My 50. On the Longhorn Network at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Louisiana Monroe at Texas, called by Lowell Galindo and former Longhorn linebacker Sam Acho. Also at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPN Plus is Murray State at Texas Tech with Noah Reed and Taylor Mahargay. I think that's how you say it. Taylor Mahargay. And then you got 4 games late on Saturday. At 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific on the Pac-12 network is Idaho at Washington State, called by J.B. Long and Ryan Leaf. Of course, Ryan Leaf was a quarterback for Washington State back in the late 90s. At 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific on ESPN is Boise State at Oregon State, called by Beth Mowins and Kirk Morrison. Then on FS1 is Kent State at Washington with Alex Faust and Petros Papadakis. And the final game on Saturday is at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:59 p.m. Pacific, Western Kentucky at Hawaii. And that's on Hawaii pay-per-view and Team One Sports. And there's no broadcast team announced. You got one game on the schedule on Sunday, September 4th. And that's the LSU Tigers and the Florida State Seminoles. They're playing that game at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. That's Sunday night at 7:30. That's Sunday night at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific on ABC, called by Joe Tessitore and Greg McElroy. And then week 1 finishes up on Labor Day as number 4 Clemson faces off with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in Atlanta, technically at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and not on Georgia Tech's home field. And this is on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. This game will be called by Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvorak, and Tom Luginville. And that is that, folks. The week 1 college football schedule and the broadcast teams for every game this week. Now, you can look for these videos on Tuesday nights, probably at around late Tuesday nights, primarily after 1 a.m. Eastern time. Or if I can get them out early on Tuesday, I'll have them up by 7 p.m. Eastern time. So watch out for all of that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell twice every time I post a vid. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.